Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another one of my wargaming miniature projects. I've got a Princeton project, which is an American War of Independence. Black powder is the rule set, and I'm converting all of my British Grenadier models into black powder. Basically, I have to rebase them. Once I rebase them, I'll be using them in black powder. Now I've decided to do the Princeton project. I'm going to do a Princeton battle, but to be able to do Princeton, I'm going to need to expand my American War of Independence figure line, because right now I've only got enough figures to do Freeman's Farm. And when I switch over to this Princeton battle, I'm going to need more figures. How many more figures? I'm not exactly sure. I'm still working on that. That's part of the project right now. I'm still working on that because I need to rebase the figures, and when I do, that's going to adjust how many bases they actually take up. And then I have to do some research to find out exactly which units are in that battle and how many men were in each unit, and then maybe I'll do a combined, like, Delaware, Virginia unit, or maybe I'll take the New York unit, or the New Jersey, or the Virginia, or the Pennsylvania Associators. Okay, having said that, I'm going to need to proxy some of my current units into Princeton units. So like I have a 9th Regiment of Foot over there, which the 9th is not at Princeton. The 9th was at Freeman's Farm. But since I already have the 9th Regiment done and ready to go, I'm just going to use it in Princeton. I'm planning on getting some Warlord Games models. I already have some Warlord Games miniatures, one sprue, and I'm comparing the men on these sprues to my men of my Old Glory figures, and they're very close to the same size, but not exactly. It's like these guys are about a foot taller than these, maybe not even a foot, maybe 6 inches taller. Okay, well that gives a good variety of sizes, but the problem is if I intermix them, like if I put this guy on the same base as one of my metal guys, then there's going to be head heights like this, and it's going to be, I'm afraid it's going to be too much. That's what I'm afraid of. That 6 inches is kind of a big deal, especially during the American War of Independence, but maybe not. So what I'm thinking about doing is when I order the Warlord Games Continentals, I'm planning on keeping them as one unit and having a whole unit of Warlord Games and then a whole unit of Old Glory. There shouldn't be too much of a problem with disparity in size because the unit is self-contained. So that's part of my thought process. Now I also have some Perry miniature American War of Independence British, and these guys are also there. So these guys must also be 28 millimeter, because I think these are 28 millimeter. I think these are 28 millimeter, but my Old Glory figures are 25 millimeters. So they should work together, but there's going to be maybe a little bit of difference. And plus, all the Warlord and Perry that I'm thinking of ordering are all, well, the Warlord figures that I'm going to order are plastic. But I think I'm going to maybe order some Old Glory. I don't know. I'm still working that out, trying to figure out exactly which units I'm going to get. I'm also going to get some flags. I have some Cotton Gym flags, but I'm going to go to not war flags, but flags of war, and maybe get some of those flags, because they're only like $3 per unit. You know, you get 2 flags. You get the main flag and the secondary flag. So, and I'm only going to need maybe 10. You know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to get some of those. I'm also going to have to order bases because even though I have quite a few of these, maybe 20 of these, I realized that I need over 100 bases to do the remaining, all my units, because I have to convert the bases. I have quite a few 40 by 40s, but these are the 0.8 millimeter. These are super thin, and I want the 3 millimeter bases, the thick ones. That's what I want, and like this is my last wood one. Yeah, I've got, and I used them all up for my Napoleonics. Okay, so you know where I'm at. I'm in the middle of trying to decide what figure brand I want. I want a mixture, because that's going to give me a wider variety of poses. And so I'm going to get probably some. I got my Perry British right there, and they're going to finish up my British really. And then I'm going to get some Warlord Continentals for sure. And then I'm probably going to have to get a couple of wagons, some cannons. But that's no problem. I'm going to be able to do all that, and I'm going to order those like probably this weekend. And then I really can't do anything with these figures until I get in the bases, for one thing. Once I get the bases in, then I can start rebasing them all. And also, once I get the figures in, I can kind of figure out exactly how I want to intersperse the Old Glory figures with the Warlord figures, which I think I'm going to keep them in separate units. I think I'm going to put my extra Old Glory figures that I have are going to be separated from the Warlord Games figures. Okay, so that's the hard fact. Now I'm also going to get a couple of buildings and one more bridge, because that battle's going to need it. And all my buildings are either medievals or World War II. I don't really have. I have like one American War of Independence building, and I need to make some more. Fence lines and hedges, those can be used across the board, so I don't have any problem with that. All right, now I pulled up a collection of books that I've been perusing to gather the proper information that I need. One of them is the black powder rules. Okay, but what does this tell me? Nothing. It just tells me like nothing. This is the rules. It doesn't help me out in this battle at all. Okay, this is the black powder, that rule set, American War of Independence book. So this talks about the special unit capabilities and general capabilities and what units were at what battle and things like that. So this is a really great resource for that. And it even does have the Battle of Princeton in here. Okay, so the Battle of Princeton is in here, but the author even admits that he fudged some things to make the battle more enjoyable and not just like a one-sided battle or something like that, which is good. I want an enjoyable battle. I don't want it to be one-sided, but I also want it to be realistic, or maybe accurate, you know. And this is not. He put the Battle of Princeton in there, gave a general. I mean, I even think the cavalry he has listed in here isn't the cavalry that was actually at the battle. So I doubt some of this work. I compared it to my British Grenadier scenario book. I've got scenario book 3, which has the Battle of Princeton in it. I compared these figures to those figures, and this one has a lot of units that he doesn't have listed, but it also has, it calls certain units militia when he calls them line, or they have line when he calls it militia. So there's a little bit of a disparity amongst the two, but I understand where they're coming from. Like, this guy's calling a unit a militia unit because it performed poorly in the game or in the actual battle, when on paper they're called a line unit or a regular unit, but because they performed poorly in the battle, he's calling them militia. I don't think that's fair, because the dice will determine if they break or run, not the fact that he's militia. And so if a unit gets shot at, takes a lot of casualties, you roll a die and it breaks, it's bad. That's what happens. Don't just automatically hamper somebody because in reality they perform poorly. See, I don't agree with those rules implementations. If it's a militia unit, and it's going to be a militia unit. If it's a rifle unit, it's going to be a rifle unit. If it's a line unit, it's going to be a line unit. And if it performed poorly, well, maybe it doesn't in your recreation, in our recreation. Maybe another unit performs poorly. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. All right, so let me keep going. So right now I've got conflicting stories between these two, and so I've got this book called Washington's Crossing. This was a great book. It was a good read, but I didn't get it to really read it, even though I did read it. That's not why I got it. Why I got it was because about halfway back, maybe a little bit more than halfway back, there's maps of the battle. There's also disposition of units, like where they are and how many men are actually in those units at the day of the battle. And it also talks about like how many casualties there were and how many guns there are. But the most important thing to me was, and it talks about Trenton and Princeton, so you get a lot of that, and the Foraging War and all that. I don't really need all that. And a lot of these units that it says, like, you know, Spencer's Division and what do you got, McDougal's Brigade, and like he's got the 1st New York Regiment, which had 428 men in it, you know. And so I can take those numbers, and it gives a lot of biographies, like, or I guess, like where they got all this information, and like their sources, their bibliography, right? And so with this information, I can actually figure out how many men are in the units that are in the battles, and then I can take those numbers and I can tweak them and modify them a little bit and do a ratio to how many men are in a figure. And then I can actually figure out how many figures that I'm going to need to fill those units. Okay. So that's a project for me. Painting wise, I've got 2 sources that I use quite a bit, and that is the Uniforms of the American Revolution, which is by John Molo, and right in the middle you got a bunch of color plates, and then in the back it talks about what that color plate is all about, like this United States Officer of Militia, and it goes into details about how the officer here is quite similar dressed to a civilian, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into details. And it talks about like lapels and buttons and stuff. So for painting, that'll help out quite a bit. It also has what units took place in what battles. I thought that was really good. And then the big one, the big boy here, is the Uniforms of the American Revolutionary War, which this has, every page is full of colored plates. And I love painting off of these because they're super easy to figure out. And like what's a gator? You know, I don't know, but what's a bearskin cap? Okay, there it is. And then it's got like all the regiments and their colors, you know, and all that. And you know, it even has like the French and the Germans in this book. So, and the Rangers and the Loyalists and all that. So this is a great painting resource. So these 2 I use as my painting guides, and I'm getting ready to figure out exactly how many figures go where. I've already started that. It's harder than it looks. Okay. So when I get all of that figured out, right, and I get the figures ordered, and they're going to be, I'm going to have to wait for that to be shipped in. This is probably going to take a week or 2 to get everything in the house. And then I'm going to be gradually working on rebasing what I have to, actually I've only got like maybe half a dozen. No, that's not true. I got more than a dozen bases. I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably have about a dozen bases, which is going to let me do 3 more units. So I'll gradually be doing those, and then I'll be flocking the ones I already have done and these just as a stopgap until I start getting these other figures in. I might even start working on the generals, because I've got a few generals over there that I need to rebase onto round bases, and the round bases I usually get 2-inch washers at the local Home Depot, and I can do that. I don't have to wait for that to be shipped in. Okay, so in a future video, this is like the introduction to my Princeton project. In a future video, what I'll do is I'll post up here somewhere or over here. What I'll do is I'll post a list of units that oh yeah, let's talk about this before I do that. But I'm going to post the units that participated in the battle, what I'm using as a proxy for those units, and how many figures are in that unit. And then I'll provide you with, on a video, I'll provide you with a map of the battlefield so you can kind of see actually where the battle, deployment areas, the buildings when they come in. I'll do videos on assembly because I'm getting some Sarissa buildings, the bridge, and a couple of farmhouses. And yeah, this project's going to be taking a couple of months. I'm going to, like every week, I'm going to try to update you, maybe twice a week, to let you know where I'm at, what's going on. But before I say that, before we close the video, proxies. I have units, or did I already talk about that? I don't know if I already mentioned this yet or not, but I have units of figures like the Canadians, or some Delaware guys, or some Virginia guys, and I don't have any Connecticut or Rhode Island, but I have enough figures, and especially the British. Like, okay, talking about the British, the way the black powder scenario is laid out is there's the 17th, the 55th, and the 40th regiment there, right? And they're there in maybe a battalion strength. Each are about a battalion, not a whole regiment. They're just one, like the 1st Battalion of the 55th is there. But on the table, you have it. They have them deployed as 4 units. What that means is each of those units they're talking about should only be a company. Should be a company from each of the battalions. I don't want to do that. Well, I do want to do that, but I don't want to only deploy like 1 or 2 bases of miniatures. I want to deploy a whole regiment of miniatures for each of those simulated companies. So by doing that, I don't want to take like the 17th Regiment and go 17th Regiment, 17th Regiment, 17th Regiment, 17th Regiment. I don't want to do that because there's going to be 4 of the units. So what I'm going to do, and this is my wholehearted plan right here, is to take the 17th Regiment, the 9th Regiment, the 23rd Regiment, the 24th Regiment, or whatever it is. Make 1 unit per regiment, and then just say on the day of the battle, say those are all the 17th Regiment. But actually painting them and putting their flags on them and uniforms and everything, they're going to be from different regiments. And what that'll allow me to do is just have a whole bunch of different regiments, because I'm not always going to be playing Princeton. I'm not always going to be playing Freeman's Farm. And now I'll have the 23rd, I'll have the 9th, I'll have the 24th, and the 17th. And I'll just basically, each one of the group, each block of figures that I do is going to be a different regiment. I'm just going to proxy them. That's what I'm going to do. That's the plan. So look forward to figuring out which units I'm going to actually make and how many figures in each unit. That's another thing. Back it up. In British Grenadier, the unit sizes had nothing to do with appearance, or it had nothing to do with coherency. All it cared about was this unit had 200 guys, so it gets 10 models. Okay, if I put 10 models out there, how am I basing 10 models? There's no way. I can't figure that out, right? I can put 4 on a base, and then what, 2 on a base? I don't know. Or some of these other guys who do like 6 and a 4, It's possible I could do that, 6 and a 4. But that looks ugly. You got a base of 6 and then a base of 4. That's horrible. So what I've decided to do was all my regiments, good, bad, and the ugly, doesn't matter, 16 figures. Period. 16 figures. So I'm going to have 4 bases of 4. It's going to look good. When I put it in line, here's a militia group that I just finished. And if I take these guys and I line them up as if they were in line, and there are 16 figures on 4 bases, that looks good. That just looks good. And then if I need to put them in any other kind of formation, I can do that. That looks great. And it abides by the Warlord, by the Black Powder Rules Convention. This is just over 6 inches, so it's 6 1/4 inches long. And they say that the units should be anywhere between 6 to 7 inches. That's going to work. So all my units are going to be 4 stands with 4 figures per base, and later on down the road, if I ever need to do like a large unit or a small unit, I can take 2 bases from another unit and put it in with this one. I did that all the time with my Napoleon's battles. You know, you make everything to 24, and then if you need a 16, you just take figures off. Or if you need 28, well, then you take them from other units and put it on there. So that's what I'm going to be doing with American War of Independence. My base unit is 16. I know you probably should do 24, but American War of Independence, that would be for Napoleonics. For American War of Independence, units are all smaller anyway, and by having less figures and a smaller frontage, you can actually play on a smaller table. The Rebellion book says that a 5 by 8 or a 4 by 8 table is still great for those battles, the way he's designed it. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I have to do my own little research. Alright guys, well, thanks for hearing me out, listening to my project and what I'm planning on doing. And over the next couple of months, I'm going to be uploading tons of videos on this Princeton project. If you want to like and subscribe to the channel, please do. And you can hit the little bell icon to be notified when I upload any of these new videos. And if you're into the American War of Independence, or you just want to learn some techniques on painting, I'm going to be doing that as well. And assembly and buildings and terrain. That's another thing. I don't think I'm going to do another canvas mat, where the last time what I did was I took a canvas mat, laid it out over my 5 by 9 table, and I put caulk down, and then I flocked it, and that was like a whole week project to do this. I don't think I'm going to do that. That seems like it's a little excessive. What I might do is get a sheet of felt, because I can get a pretty large sheet of felt, like 4 by 9 or something like that. I can get it in green, maybe a darker green, and then I can paint roads on it, or I can make roads and lay them down on it, and then I can just, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that whole flocking of a mat to make it look like grass and everything. It was excessive. It didn't turn out the way I was hoping it would turn out. It wasn't worth it. You know, I paid like a couple $100 for that thing because of all the materials. I'm not doing that. I thought about getting just a roll-out mat that you can buy somewhere, but I don't think I want to do that either. I think I just want to get a green piece of felt. That's probably what I'm going to do. And then modify it or paint on it or something. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. Catch you next time.